Sir, I brought you a lot of this audience. We're out here from Seattle, Washington, all over the country. Do you mind if we speak? We're out for the same thing. I've actually worked with people from architects and engineers in Washington State.
Sure, but I need to know more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we educate about is, have you ever questioned why there was a national emergency on 911?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Masons and what's etched on their building in D.C., all is number?
I do, but with that, I want to keep it to the most pure information.
That's what I do.
We want to keep people filled on.
Sir, trust me, I don't mean to put you down, but my information is a lot more engaging than yours. You can listen to me, and if you want to cut me off, you can.
I don't want to get into Freemasonry and all
You
society.
don't want to talk about Freemasonry and secret societies?
It definitely was involved.
So here, let me ask you, Genesis 11:9. What's in Genesis 11:9, sir? That's the Tower of Babel. That's where the story ends. The tower that divides the world.
You're right.
How many weeks was it from Obama taking office to Osama dying?
We're getting into numerology.
So 119 weeks? 119 weeks? Well, you guys, what I want you to understand about this shit right here is this is what you call controlled opposition. You're talking about going to the courts for justice?
60 exhibits were presented to the U.S. Attorney.
I am going to use your bullhorn. No.
Everybody's going to be able to do it.
No.
I didn't ask you to hear me out.
Listen, we came out here for real information, not to talk about going to courts that are never going to bring us any justice, sir. That's a joke.
Listen, everybody's going to get a chance to speak. You speak on the mic if people want to respond.
People respond. We've been gathering crowds all over. We just made all blocks.
I'm a friend of Steve's, okay? I told him.
Appreciate it.
Please,
Let me. You want to film for me?
and if people want to respond.
Just do it not in front of his thing. So you guys
No, you
can
can just do it. It doesn't matter what it is.
put your signs on. So you can be on there.
Have a crowd here before we
I know.
The whole audience is here for me, buddy. Just so you know. You don't want to hear about getting justice in court. Come on.
Zach, they're on our side. They're on our side. They're on our side.
Testing. Good people in New York City. I know everyone walking by knew something was funny who was alive on September 11th, 2001, when the towers came down on this city on 9/11 of all days. What are the odds? A national emergency on 9/11. I was 18 years old then, and it never sat right with me.
How you doing?
Here's what I want you to think about, you guys. The majority of the world writes the date September 11th, 11/9, like the number 119. If you read the Bible, Genesis 11. Genesis 11 is the story we're going to talk about here in a moment, the Tower of Babel. But with regards to 11, of course, the World Trade Centers once looked like a massive 11 in the New York City skyline in the 11th state. Of course, they said the first flight that hit the tower that day was flight AA-11. What a lot of people didn't realize that day is that the 11th director of the CIA, George Herbert Walker Bush, he had given a speech 11 years to the day earlier, September 11th, 1990. And he said there will be a new world order, and it will be a world freer of terror. Think of the odds of that 11 years to the day of 9/11 while his son was sitting in the Oval Office. Or actually, where was he? He was down in Florida with his brother. And we all know what happened in the election 2000. The Supreme Court stopped the democratic process and declared Trump the winner by stopping the recount in Florida. What we want to talk about today is a simple code used by the secret societies that occupy Washington, D.C. If you do not know, D.C. is known as the Masonic City. The Masonic City. George Washington, who it's named after, being Freemason. Again, on the outside of the House of the Temple in D.C., it's written, all is number. All is number.
Yes, it is.
On the outside of that temple, there are 33 columns that are each 33 feet tall. What happened 33 years before September 11th, 2001? If you did not know this, please look up this because it's all facts. 33 years before 9/11, in 1968, 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. World Trade Center construction began in New York. George W. Bush graduated from the powerful secret society Yale Skull and Bones, the same one his father went to. That was the same year that Boeing debuted their jumbo jetliners in Seattle. That was the same year that Muhammad Atta was born, one of 19 hijackers, they said, born on the first day of the 9th month, 1-9. If you look into 1968, you'll find that that was the year the Quran Code was discovered. The Quran Code says the number 19 is what ties the Quran together. Every number in the book is divisible by 19, including the 114 surahs that make it up. 19. Of course, we had COVID-19 19 years later, but that's another story we'll get to. Now, here's what brings this all together. Again, 33 years before 9/11, all these things happened in 68. The Masons, the Jesuits, they observe an ancient code that goes back to Babylon that is about numbers. There's a belief in Kabbalah. If you look up the Book of Formation, the Kabbalistic text, if you look up the Zohar, it is written that God created the world with numbers, letters, and words. It's much like Genesis 1, where God speaks the world into existence over numbered days. Again, Genesis 11:9 is where the story of the Tower of Babel ends, the tower that divides the world. And of course, that book represents the Abrahamic religions, which are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And think about what happened right after 9/11. You had the leader of Israel, Ehud Barak, get on our TV and tell us to declare a war against Muslim nations. And then you had George W. Bush, the Skull and Bones member, get on and talk about a crusade, which should remind us of the Knights Templar. And if you are not familiar with the powerful secret society at Yale, Skull and Bones, they are modeled after the Knights Templar. They get their symbolism from how the Templars bury their dead in an ossuary. This stuff is not an accident. Now, this secret code, which has been on Jeopardy recently, they're even starting to put this on TV. Comedy Central just made fun of it on August 11th. Jimmy Kimmel just made fun of it in July. And it's because people are starting to catch on. But there's a simple code of letters and numbers. It's based on the alphabetic order which you learned in kindergarten. In this code, which is known as Gematria, which comes from Kabbalah, the word masonry equals 33. The word secrecy equals 33. The word order equals 33. The word federal equals 33. New York equals 33. 33 years after 1968, the towers come down. Here's another thing that equals 33. False flag. False flag. Here's another thing that equals 33. Pirate. If you do not know who Yale Skull and Bones are, look up their symbol, the skull with the crossbones, which you associate with pirates. If you don't know the history of the Knights Templar, they're where the Friday the 13th superstition came from. They were burned at the stake for worshiping Satan. They then fled France and became pirates. They became pirates. One more time, you guys. 1968, the plan went into motion. 33 years later, the towers come down in Gematria. False flag, pirate, secrecy, order, masonry, federal, New York, they're all 33. All of them. Every last one. Look into the Fraternal Order of Police. Police equals 33. For the last 20 years, every time I go to speak out about stuff like this, shout out to the NYPD because they're not doing it, but the police are always here to shut me down. It's the police that want to silence me for speaking the truth. And in reality, I'm speaking it for all of us. I knew when I was 18, if we didn't get justice for the lies of 9/11, things would be real ugly. And for 10 years before 2020, I said if we don't wake up, there's going to be something real bad 19 years after 9/11. I want you to think about this. Every 19 years, you guys, it's important. The moon is on a 19-year cycle. That's why the Hebrew calendar, the holidays, fall on the same day every 19 years. In Gematria, chaos equals 19. The Masonic motto is order out of chaos. But here's 19 years. Think about this. 2020, we had the war on germs. That was really a war on us, our businesses, our rights and liberties, our bodily sovereignty. 19 years earlier, of course, was the war on terror. That was also a war on us. We lost our rights and liberties. A surveillance state was put in place. The Constitution was referred to by Bush as nothing but a piece of paper, and he wasn't joking. You know what happened 19 years before 9/11? It was 1982. That was the year the war on drugs was declared. And that was also a war on your personal freedom. If you can't choose what you do with your own body, you're not free.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah.
1963, JFK got his head blown off. That was 19 years before 82. That was the war on courage. My parents were children back then. What they learned, like a lot of Americans, is if you speak out, you might get your head blown off. So you might as well just tuck your head like a turtle and walk along with the pack and go along with the lies of big authority. And I see a lot of people doing that today as they just walk by as some of the most important truths are dropped on their head. We call those truth bombs. And they're a lot more important than the bombs that went off on 9/11 that were blamed on a boogeyman in a cave.
Talk your shit, Zach.
1944 was 19 years before that. How many troops did we send off for the lies of World War II to be slaughtered? A lot in 44. And the list goes on, you guys. That means 2039 is going to be 19 years after the war on germs. And I hope by then enough people have woken up that we've shut down their sinister pattern.
Yes, sir.
Here's another thing I want to tell you about. I want to explain to you why there's one World Trade Center now. As you know, there used to be 2 World Trade Centers. There used to be 2. Then there became 0. Then there became 1.
201.
Why does that matter? That number should be ringing in everybody's head right now, 201. The reason it's not is because your media doesn't tell you anything but lies and fear to control you. How many of you know about Event 201, the coronavirus pandemic simulation, 1 month before the outbreak in Wuhan, China, put on the same day the military World Games began in Wuhan, China? If you look into the history of the military World Games, they are credited to the Jesuit order. If you look into Event 201, it was led by Klaus Schwab, who was a Jesuit priest. It was also led by the Johns Hopkins University, which was founded by Daniel Coit Gilman, a Skull and Bones member. And as I said a moment ago, Skull and Bones is modeled after the Knights Templar. Of course, the Templars are the old military order of the Catholic Church. The new military order of the Catholic Church is the Jesuits. And that's why the Templar cross is in their logo. Now understand, we are living in the time of the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis. He is the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican. This is not arbitrary that he lives in Suite 201. Again, learn gematria, the simple practice of coding numbers into words. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. If you write out the birth name of Pope Francis, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, it equals 201. If you write out the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola, his name equals 201. If you write out the Jesuit order, it equals 201. If you write out the Holy Bible, it equals 201. If you write out State of Israel, it equals 201. Remind me, who told us on 9/11 to attack Afghanistan and Iraq?
Benjamin Netanyahu?
Yes, it was Ehud Barak, the leader of Israel. 201 is an extremely important number to the Jesuits. It didn't stop with 9/11. It's going on almost every day. Almost every last ritual that's pulled off in our news that's meant to dupe us out of our rights and liberties through fear has this number encoded on it. New York, you recently suffered the New York subway shooting on April 12th. April 12th. Did any of you guys get the joke of the Underground Railroad shooting on the anniversary of the start of the American Civil War? April 12th is the 102nd day of the year. The word slavery equals 102. Of course, the cameras were out and they couldn't find the shooter, but then they blamed it on a darker complected man to remind you about that history. The 102nd day of the year. Then not long after, you had another mass shooting in New York at the Buffalo Tops, where the Underground Railroad went through. Again, you had, for those of you guys who are part of the United States of Amnesia, just to remind you, April 12th, again, the anniversary of the start of the American Civil War, They had a subway shooting. Think about the symbolism. Think about the phrase, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. But anyhow, Harriet Tubman, her name in Gematria equals 201. Some people wonder if she's even a real part of history. His story. Who is his story? If you're listening, you should be figuring it out. It's the Catholic Church. The same people that founded this country were trying to flee the tyranny of the Catholic Church that ruled over Europe. But again, you guys, understand what the phase of the agenda is right now. They're trying to divide us. They're trying to tear us apart. They're trying to create a new American Civil War. That's why they had George Floyd killed in a massive 201 ritual on Memorial Day, which came out of the Civil War. This year on Memorial Day, what was the mass shooting? It was in Charleston, where the Civil War began. When the top shooting happened in Buffalo, again, where the Underground Railroad went through, that was on Hillary Clinton's 201st day of her age. Why does that matter that it was Hillary's 201st day of her age? It's because she cut the ribbon on the Buffalo Tops, which was a huge political story. She's Jesuit educated at Georgetown like Bill Clinton. After Tops, the next mass shooting was in Uvalde. The big celebrity was Matthew McConaughey. Guess how many days after Matthew McConaughey's birthday the mass shooting was? It was 201 days. Then, on the anniversary of the Tulsa race riots, you had another mass shooting. That was 201 days after Arturo Sosa's birthday. And if you don't know the name Arturo Sosa, that's the Black Pope. That's the leader of the Jesuit order. And many historians have written for centuries that the Black Pope is the most powerful man in the world. After the Tulsa race riot shooting, then we had the Columbia machine shooting, like the District of Columbia, 201 days after Biden's birthday. And know when the first gun control legislation came in this nation's history? It was 1968, that infamous year, 201 days after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And for those of you guys who don't know the sick joke of the killing of MLK on the 95th day in 1968, you must know that Martin Luther was not his birth name. It was Michael. He assumed the name Martin Luther after the Protestant Reformation leader who wrote the 95 Theses to shut down the tyranny of the Catholic Church. So go figure that Martin Luther King Jr. ends up getting assassinated on the 95th day in 1968, April 4th, 5 years to the day of the opening of the World Trade Center. Have you guys ever thought about how MLK was killed on 4/4? Before I make that point, please look into the speech MLK gave a year to the day of his murder. If you guys do not know, MLK was blacklisted from the media, denounced by Lyndon Johnson, his own friends, many politicians, talking heads. They said Martin Luther King Jr. had become a traitor to America because of what he said April 4th, 1967. He spoke the truth and he was censored, just like everybody today who speaks the truth is being censored. MLK said on April 4th, 1967, "It's a time to break silence." He said, "The evil of this nation is the military agenda and the empire and the fact that we send our young people off to murder innocents all over the world, and then they bring that hatred back to this country. And then they bring that hatred into their own families. And the next thing you know, you got broken families, you got drug addicts, you got homeless people.
Sacrifices.
You got sacrifices, you got unnecessary death and killing." A year to the day of his speech beyond Vietnam, a time to break silence, this man is murdered. And he said those who remain silent against evil are part of that evil. And that's my biggest problem. That's actually what I've been thinking since even before I heard his speech. Just the way we march along to obvious lies from 9/11 to pretty much everything else they shove us. Why are we so indifferent to evil? The home of the brave, like we learned in our 13 years of slave school, pledging to 13 stripes based on the 13 colonies. Are we really free? Are we really brave? I want to thank the people hosting this event for allowing us to speak. They asked me to wind it up. But the one thing I want to say to the speakers of this event is they better sharpen their knowledge and stop regurgitating 20-year-old information that isn't changing anything. And they better stop counting on the courts to come save us. I was just telling you about 201 and the Jesuits. Look up the father of the Constitution, James Madison.
Sorry, Mama Hubbard.
201. The first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice John Jay, his name equals 201. Did you disconnect? Please don't disconnect. Okay, and here I got to give you this before I get off. Oh, I will in 1 second, but since Roe vs. Wade's so current, I don't like your attitude, by the way. I don't feel like you're about the truth. But I'm going to finish one thing. Roe vs. Wade.
I didn't see it, sure.
Roe vs. Wade.
Damn it.
I want you to understand what they just did. I want you to think about it. The name of the case was Jackson Dobbs. And after they overturned it, you saw what the news media said. They said this is going to impact black women the most. What happened a few days later? We just happened to get the first black female Supreme Court justice, and her name was Jackson. Now, guess what? When Stephen Breyer announced his retirement earlier this year, it was 201 days before his birthday.
They're
And
just
then they
getting the
nominated
materials out of the
Ketanji Brown
rain, guys.
Jackson on
It's starting to
February
rain pretty good
25th,
now.
201 days before her birthday. The name of the case that just overturned Roe vs. Wade has a gematria of 201. So does the full name of Mr. Dobbs in the Dobbs-Jackson case. This man says find a way to wind it up. Let me wind it up this way. 1 week before Roe vs. Wade was overturned, our federal government approved the vaccination for 6-month-olds. 6-month-olds. Again, Event 201 was the simulation to bring about this pandemic where they simulated rushing out vaccines. And by the way, watch the Clade X and Event 201 coronavirus simulations. In both, they rush them out to do more damage than good. Clade X was also 666 days before the pandemic was declared, like the mark, which you must have if you want to buy or sell. And everybody should get that in light of what's going on in these times. But again, the vaccine, the face of that right now is Bill Gates. William Henry Gates, his name in gematria is 201, also a main co-sponsor of Event 201. He is into eugenics. Listen to his 2010 TED Talk, 2010, where he talks about why we need to reduce population. I want you to think about the new jabs they have out there. They've told us that it involves fetal material from abortions to develop the vaccines. What's Bill Gates' father's legacy? Planned Parenthood, big on eugenics as well. It's a long trail of 201, you guys, from the beginning of this country up to the present. And that's why it's a joke to think that we're ever going to get justice from our courts and our system that was made to always control and rule over us. I got to close with one more thing based on what the man before me was speaking. In 1968, one more time, World Trade Center construction began. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones, and a lot more things connected to that day. But also in 1968, that was the year fentanyl was approved by the FDA. It was also the year coronavirus was coined, and it was the year of the first HIV case. But coming back to fentanyl, that's a product that comes from poppies and opium. And what did we do after 9/11? We went into Afghanistan, the biggest producing country in the world of poppies, and we murdered the Taliban. And what didn't the Taliban want in their country? They didn't want poppies because they know opium was destroying their own people. We've gone into that country and we've restored the opium production, and it's booming. And now across this world, you have people addicted to heroin like never before, fentanyl. You have suicides left and right, people dying from overdoses left and right. R.I.P. to Prince, who said, "I would die for you," and spelled it with the number 4 and the letter U. Well, U was the 21st letter, and he died on 4/21.
Look it
on
up.
the Queen's birthday. And R.I.P. to the Queen, who just died 201 days after being diagnosed with COVID.
That is your lesson in how counterintelligence works.
And by the way, counterintelligence, the CIA, it was established on the 201st day of the Pope's age.
Got him. And one.
The numbers don't lie.
Coincidence.
Look it up.
Come talk to me because I got free t-shirts that say coincidence theorist on the front and I'm a fucking idiot on the back.
Oh,
Talk that shit.
talk that shit, Zach.
Talk that shit. Yeah. What do you mean? Look it up. This ain't belief.
Thanks a lot. Okay, thanks.
Way to go, Zach.
All right, thanks.
Oh,
Let him down. Talk that shit.
thank
All
you.
right, we're going to continue with what we were saying before. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I know you guys are against what's going on, and even though we don't have the same point of view on Gematria, perhaps, we do have the same point of view on a lot of many different common ground areas. They should not be in Afghanistan. You should not have George W. Bush, and all the rest of it, Biden and all the rest. Because now we have coronavirus, another big problem they're trying to shove down your throat.
Hold on to this.
And the vaccinations, a worldwide, really a genocide program. Really a genocide program, because once you start with these vaccinations, now these are the same people that brought down the World Trade Center. They're the same people that murdered your political leaders. The Kennedy brothers, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. All right? The same groups continue through time. And I know that everybody here knows about it.
Rebels right down here.
Everybody knows about it. And we must get these people. We need a new political leadership.
Oh, our system's here. Sound
Absolutely
is
new
it.
political parties, new political leadership, and I think that's what we all have in mind, and I hope that we can agree on those things. So, yeah, an engaged public, and hopefully that will happen. So, thanks a lot. Okay, and let's see you guys.
Chat, New York is lit. New York stood up.
Y'all watch out. Y'all watch out. Y'all watch out.
Pandemic from 2001 all the way till now. I told you for the first time also in 2020 in August, but I wasn't really like that well with the
These are all truth seekers. These are all people in the community, besides a few who are not in the community.
Royalty colors.
If y'all want to use my umbrella, if she's gonna wet, you can use it, bro. Thank you.
Because you're the smartest guy. I told you what my purpose was. This was a flash mob infiltration. You did not talk about 9/11 except for a small side note. It was a ritual. This is all. I'm not doing this with you guys.
Whoever this guy is, you're a fucking fraud, dude. You're what's wrong with the world.
Dude, this guy wrote a million things about 9/11.
This with you people.
You don't know who you're talking
Well,
about.
hey, thanks for giving us the mic because
This guy wrote a million things about 9/11.
the city's grateful for it too. It's too bad that you're such a fucking fraud, man.
Why can't everybody have their own opinion?
I remember the license plate. What is 47?
Yeah.
The license plate, because the 47 degrees on the Masonic
Why don't you
compass.
just make your speech and let him make his speech?
I'm just so sick of controlled opposition. For all the people out there, you need to understand almost this whole truth community is full of fake fraud. Oh yeah, this shit, that shit just lines up perfectly.
The evidence before the U.S.
Everybody knows it was a demolition, dude. The video's out there of all the blow.
Start talking about fucking numbers and bullshit.
You said you didn't want to talk to us, so don't make fun of what we
so
show.
fucking stop talking to me. Walk the fuck away.
You gotta take your medication.
Yeah,
Exhibits for the controlled demolition of World Trade Center. Building 1, 2, and 7.
Ritualistic people use numbers and dates on the calendar.
All right, let's not waste our time with this. I just want people to know controlled opposition. Yeah, God bless America. That's the problem right there.
Keep going, buddy.
You have any more shirts, Zach?
Here.
Put on the bullhorn, Zach.
Kareem's here with the speaker setup. We'll take over and drop real facts all day. Hey, thanks for clearing out. Oh yeah, counterintelligence. That's you, buddy. No, Lincoln's right here.
Zach,
We'll set up right here.
You have any more shirts? You got any more Gematria shirts?
Not right now.
What about what is 47? The license plate?
I don't have anything with me,
Have
dude.
it. Have at it.
Our facts aren't opinion based.
Right on. That's a real truth.
Any 11 crashed in the 11th state on the 11th
set
day.
up?
Any idiot.
Oh, sorry. Now Zach took the mic and saying the truth. Really wish y'all were here. Perfect, man.
When he first started, he's walking away.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for showing me that too.
You're the best, Zach.
Shark. Shark.
The 77-foot tall Pentagon is ritualism. That's why they made the Pentagon
Shark.
77 feet tall on the 77th meridian.
Anybody that has a brain and knows how counterintelligence works.
All you need is half a brain to see what we show.
Well done, Larry. If you're behind this, well done.
So Zach, I was saying, so like in the USA Today, like if that's state by state, they'll say like some guy was killed who was 55 years old,
Right.
And then like the Braves will like lose the 55th game.
Yeah. That's how
and
they
so,
do
like,
it.
So I've been like trying to. It's a little tricky though, because sometimes they'll like hide letters in there that will make it like not true, you know. So
Right.
So, but I you know, once
Right.
I figure it out, you know, I could just like.
Right.
I mean, it's not every game, but it's like 3 games. a game.
Right. Here. All right. Testing. Kareem, can we go? Testing.
But it's funny how he said.
Can I get an autograph, Zach?
I will absolutely autograph for you.
Where's Rambo?
I'll be here for a
Where's
long time.
Rambo?
Good to see you.
He's got the beanie on. He's got the beanie on that says GematriaEffectNews.
You have any shirts with what is 47?
My guy, I just said I don't have anything.
All right.
We fight.
I'm so excited to meet you.
I know, but I don't have anything. I just already answered.
Yo, we're in that group. I know you're big. You don't see a lot of the messages, but we're in the group Guardians Divinity, and we go around protesting vaccine mandates throughout the city. We do sit-ins. I got arrested a few times. You
Thanks
know?
for clearing out. We're gonna bring the real truth here.
Okay, dude.
Yeah, go keep serving Alex Jones and all the bullshit fake truthers. Yeah, you're a joke.
Right now, bro. Look at this shit. Operation Neptune
Doesn't
Spear.
realize like this
Come
is
on,
a
dog.
spiritual
That's not a
war.
coincidence. That's not a coincidence, dog. That's not a fucking coincidence.
You're saying with the spikes?
No, remember we said it was like a whale. Remember?
Yeah.
Whale, ocean,
Ocean,
fish,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Neptune.
Absolutely.
They continue the tradition,
Absolutely.
like inside with Mercury.
Find Rambo for me, will you, and ask if he wants to speak. He has dreads. He's got a black beanie on that says GematriaEffectNews with green writing on the front. He's around here.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Have you studied the Georgia Guidestones?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on George Bush's July 6th birthday, 7/6,
Yeah.
that's also Daniel Coit Gilman's birthday, who founded the Johns Hopkins University.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's also the creator of Utopia. You know, the guy who coined the term Utopia, Thomas More,
Yeah.
he died on that day in history.
Okay.
For the record, in Gematria, skull and bones equals 76.
Okay.
Bush turned 76, 7/6,
Okay. Yeah. Our flag did.
1776. Okay?
Yeah.
So, the Georgia Guidestones came down 201 days after the Pope's birthday.
Yeah.
The first Pope to live.
Okay.
Did you hear what I was talking about with all the 201?
No. Yeah. I did, but I didn't hear
He's the first to live in Suite 201. His birth name's 201. It's the number of the Jesuit order. He's the first Jesuit Pope. The last French Pope was the 201st. The Jesuits are from France. You know how the only footage of the first plane hitting the tower is captured by those Frenchmen?
Yeah. Right.
Their names equal 201.
Oh,
See what I mean?
and they were all yes. There's a lot of.
See what I mean?
A lot of communication.
So-
going on
So, do you know that there's a new show recently put out called Utopia?
there. No,
It's
I
about
guess,
about reducing the Earth's population to 500 million, just like the number on the Guidestones.
Yeah.
Utopia is the name of the show. Thomas More died on 7/6, who wrote Utopia, or who coined that term Utopia.
Right.
So this is all a big, sick, long planned out ritual.
So the day they were blown up was that? What was that?
July 6th, Bush's 76th birthday. And again, Skull and Bones equals 76. The name Daniel Coit Gilman's also 76. He is the founder of Skull and Bones. You know how they said it got attacked at 4:03 in the morning?
Yeah.
4:03. What president was Bush?
Then
43. His brother was the 43rd governor of Florida. His daddy was the 43rd vice president. Yale equals 43. Skull and Bones. Their number's 322.
Kabbalah, you talk about it.
Yes.
Goes way back.
The Kabbalah has 3 pillars and 22 paths. Genesis 3:22 mentions the tree of life, the physical model for Kabbalah. The Georgia Guidestones were put up on March 22nd, 322. You see how this works?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why for this guy to say what I'm saying is a joke and laughable and embarrassing and I'm controlled opposition, that's why we're arguing over here.
Oh, I didn't know what was going on there.
No. That's why I can't believe he said what
It wasn't him, was it?
He's a fucking fraud, this guy. Yeah, you know you are too. Did you say what I told this guy about the Georgia Guidestones? You know about that? You know about anything besides? I was there. Okay, so you think it's a coincidence? What's that mean? Do you think it's a? Yeah, you were there. What does that mean?
I know.
You were there when it blew up?
It's not the place to talk about other.
So do you think it's a coincidence that Skull and Bones equals 76 and it came down on 7/6, George W. Bush's 76th birthday? Do you think that's a coincidence?
We don't get it.
You don't get it. So you cut yourself off to information, which is why you're still regurgitating 20-year-old shit that's not going to wake up. Yeah, you think the courts are going to save us. That's embarrassing.
You walk into a court with that, they're going to laugh.
I'm not looking for courts to save us. How was this country founded with courts or a revolution, you dumb motherfucker? Wake up.
He talks about what he's talking about.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, we can talk about what we're talking about.
Dumb motherfucker.
I can't believe that you're talking shit to us like this. Did you say you said you laughed at us? That's
You laughed at me.
I didn't laugh at you.
We tried to come
I said, what did you think about that? And you said I laughed the whole way. I just did. No, that's not true.
That is true. You stood right beside me.
Good people in New York, today is the 21-year anniversary of the biggest lie ever told that's come with unprecedented consequences. The deaths of millions of people. A surveillance state, the sacrifice of our rights and liberties. How many of you guys know the day before 9/11? One day before 9/11, who remembers what happened? Donald Rumsfeld. He said the Pentagon had lost $2.3 trillion. And he said in that same speech that the Pentagon was going to have to become transparent and drastically reduce its budget. Well, the very next day, what happened? Go see if you can find yourself a copy of the New York Times from September 11, 2001. That story's right there on the cover. 2.3 trillion missing from the Pentagon. Well, guess what? Everybody forgot that story, and you know why. It's because those towers came down in a perfect demolition. And it wasn't just buildings 1 and 2, it was also building 7 hours later in the day. And what did they call 9/11? They called it the new Pearl Harbor. What day was Pearl Harbor? It was 1/2/7, wasn't it? December 7th. Buildings 1, 2, and 7 in the new Pearl Harbor. Kid, if you're just walking by, we're educating about an ancient, simple practice of coding numbers into words. It's a simple truth. Shout out to the man, he's here, he's gonna speak in a moment. In Gematria, ground zero equals 127. The terminology of ground zero came from the Manhattan Project. The original definition for ground zero is the point above or below ground where a hydrogen, atomic, or nuclear bomb explodes. Think about that for a moment. There was a great force on 9/11 that turned those buildings to dust. They fell into their own footprint. The new Pearl Harbor. Did you guys know that Pentagon construction began on September 11th, 1941, right before Pearl Harbor? If you didn't know that, you should look it up. Do you know what they reported at the Pentagon? There was no evidence of a plane, but they said Flight 77 hit the plane. Or hit the Pentagon, excuse me. And if you look it up in the 9/11 Commission report, it says it took off at 8:20 and it crashed at 9:37. Well, do the math on that. That is 77 minutes later. So Flight 77 on the Pentagon's birthday crashes into it 77 minutes later. And not only that, but Washington, D.C. is on the 77th Meridian West. The Pentagon is also 77 feet tall. If you learn gematria, you will find that when you spell out the words of September 11th, it equals 77. When you write out World Trade Center, it equals 77. When you write out the Manhattan Project, it equals 77. Think of the odds of these things. These buildings that come down in Manhattan, and they call it ground zero. The only 3 steel frame buildings to collapse in history from fire all fell on 9/11. How come the Empire State Building didn't fall down when the plane flew into it?
All the way.
Why is the Empire State Building still standing? We all learned in New York when a plane hits a building, hey, it doesn't even have to hit a plane. You know what, again, you guys, we had 2 planes in 3 buildings. But the Empire State Building, built with older architecture, stood.
We're on the course.
How?
We're on the corner.
How,
of
you
DC
guys?
And Church Street. Third.
You know why we go along with this?
Street.
It's because of what happened to us in slave school. We learned that we weren't supposed to question the authority, didn't we? We were supposed to just circle, yeah, Christopher Columbus, he discovered the nation. Who cares about the people who were here? Shout out to Howard Zinn, who wrote A People's History of the United States. He documented Columbus's letter about how easy it was to murder the Native Americans, how easy it was to rape their women. And we celebrate that guy every year in this nation. That's the kind of nation we live in, that we celebrate a guy who liked to pick on people who had lesser technology, murder them, rape their women, take their land, and then we say, you know, he found the country. Come on, you guys. We've been taught our whole lives to believe what the authority tells us. Let's spell it together. Can we even spell it? We all, that American education, it didn't do much of us, or any of us much good. But have we ever spelled out believe? Have we ever spelled out the word believe? Let's spell it out. B-E-L-I-E. We're going to stop right there. Yeah, there's a lie. I know, I'm not that dumb. But there's lie right in the middle, isn't there? L-I-E. Believe. Have you guys heard of Anderson Cooper? It's safe and effective. You're not a real man if you haven't been pokey-doked. And by the way, this segment was brought to you by Pfizer. And here we're going to report about their record profits. And also tell you about the sudden adult death syndrome. It's all just a coincidence, you guys. Just keep believing the authorities. It's safe and effective. Who needs to think? Who needs to question? Just believe the authority. Trust me, I learned this lesson a lot in school because I used to question a lot and I'd piss off my teachers, and I had a very good regular relationship with the principal. A lot of people thought I was a problem when I was a child. I'm a problem child. He doesn't respect authority. You know why I didn't respect authority growing up? Because I was being told I was free in the slave room where I was bored off my ass, where I already knew everything they were teaching me. 12 years, 13 years of the most boring, basic bullshit. Being told things like Christopher, how many years did I have to learn about Christopher Columbus, the great discoverer?
Discovering someplace somewhere people lived
already. You guys,
already.
I'm from Seattle, Washington. You should go to Seattle, you guys. They're building the surveillance state there at Big Tech, the face recognition, all the stuff that's going to further enslave us. And you know who's building that technology? It's not Americans. It's people from other countries on work visas. You know why they're doing that? Because we Americans aren't smart enough for those tech jobs because they made us stunted. They dumbed us down. They wasted our time. In India and in China, they teach math and science. They don't teach their kids that Christopher Columbus discovered their land. You guys, we're so used to bullshit, we don't know what anything else tastes like. I've been speaking a lot. There's a lot of other great speakers here. I am going to pass the mic. But please stand around and listen. There's a lot of great minds here. And you guys, we really do need to change this world.